Boys and girls, I am here to help you to learn some magic tricks. As a master magician, I've spent my life cutting ladies in half, making them fly in the air, making them appear and disappear. I've shown a top hat empty and produced a rabbit from it.
That's where I came from, Mr. Magician.
Why, Simon Rabbit, I didn't know you were going to help me teach our friends how to do tricks.
Now, Mr. Magician, you know you can't do it without my help.
Simon, be still while I tell our friends a little about magic. Almost from the beginning of time, there has been magic. In Egypt, in the Great Pyramids, there are drawings of magical devices. Some of the tricks that magicians do to this very day are shown in those pictures. The cups and balls, a trick in which balls appear and disappear under 3 different cups, are shown on the walls in the tunnels of the pyramids. The ancient Indians performed magic, and when I was on a world tour, I saw Hindu fakers doing tricks that their fathers and their grandfathers had done before them. In the Middle Ages, in Europe, wandering magicians went from town to town, entertaining people as they traveled. I've seen paintings from as early as the 1400s of these jongleurs, as they were called. But modern magic, as we understand it today, really dates from about 1860, when a great magician named Robert Houdin invented some of the basic tricks that are still performed today. So great was his ability that when there was an uprising in Algeria, led by some wicked men named marabouts, Houdin was called in and was able to stop the uprising. The marabouts were evil magicians and were using their tricks to make the natives angry and get them to fight. Houdin went all the way to Algeria and with the help of his magic made the marabouts, with their simple tricks, look foolish, and the uprising came to an end. Houdin challenged the magicians to a magic duel. Houdin asked the marabouts to bring out their strongest man and said that he would take all his strength away. And the trick Houdin performed did give that effect. He showed a suitcase which he held by one finger. Then he put the suitcase on a platform and defied the Algerian strongman to pick it up. The strongman strained and strained, but he could not lift the suitcase. Then Houdin snapped his fingers and told the strongman that his strength had returned. Only then was the man able to lift up the suitcase. Well, you can imagine what effect that had on the evil marabouts. What they didn't know was that Houdin had a very, very strong electromagnet hidden in the platform and a piece of iron in the suitcase. When he turned the electricity on, the magnet held the iron, and no man could have lifted the suitcase. As soon as the electricity was turned off, of course, the suitcase seemed to become light again. It was because Houdin was such a great magician that Eric Weiss chose the name Houdini for a stage name. And as you know, Houdini later became one of the greatest magicians who ever lived. Later on, I'll tell you how you can do some of Houdini's tricks.
Goody, I've always wanted to know how to escape from things.
Simon, you'll just have to be patient, because right now I'm going to tell all our friends how to make Tinkerbell appear by magic. You've all read fairy tales. For our first trick, I'm going to introduce you to Tinkerbell, an invisible good fairy. Take a piece of string, tie one end in a loop around a drinking glass, and tie the other end around a pencil. You'll find a drawing of just how to do this on page 2 of your magic book. Now for the story. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, a little boy and a little girl, just about your age, were walking through a forest, and they got lost. Night was coming on, and the children were getting a little bit afraid.
They were scared stiff is what they were.
And as it got darker and darker, they became more and more frightened, when suddenly, off to the right, they heard the tiniest, the barest little tinkle of a sound, a fairy bell. They went to the right, trying to find where the delightful sound was coming from. Again they heard the sound, but this time it was straight ahead of them. Again they followed the mysterious sound, but this time it came from their left. And before they knew what had happened, they'd been led right back to the path that they had lost. And just one more time, as they scampered off on their way home, they heard the mysterious Tinkerbell tinkle, as though Tinkerbell, having saved them, was now saying goodbye. Now there's a story that you can tell and a trick that you can do.
And best of all, it's easy. If you hold the pencil with the string tied to the glass just the way it's shown on page 2 of your magic book, and slowly roll the pencil between your thumb and fingers, you will hear Tinkerbell.
Yes, Simon, that's the way the trick is done. You see, the secret is that when you roll the pencil, it jerks the string. The string then moves around the glass, and that's what makes the sound of the fairy tinkle. No one will see you moving the pencil, so they'll have no idea what's making the sound.
I think that's a fine trick, Mr. Magician. What shall we teach them next?
A very mysterious trick that I call the prisoner in the glass bell.
Goody, I like that one.
For this, you'll need the same drinking glass, a nickel, that is a coin, and a bent paper match. See page 3 of your magic book.
Balance the nickel on its edge, or have your daddy do it. Then balance the bent match on top of the nickel, as shown in the drawing on page 3. And place the glass on top of the coin and the match. That's all you have to do.
Now, back to the story. The bent match is a fairy princess named Arabella. Now, you may think that's a funny name, but she loved it. And she was a happy little princess until the terrible day when a wicked witch put a spell on Arabella and made her faint. As soon as Arabella had fainted, the wicked witch took her poor bent body and placed it high up on top of a mountain of nickel. Not satisfied with that, the wicked witch covered Arabella and the mountain of nickel with a huge glass bell. Arabella's father, the king, was in tears. Princes came from far and near and looked at the huge glass bell and the poor bent body of the Princess Arabella. But no one could figure out how to save her without breaking the glass bell. And the wicked witch had told the king that if the glass broke, poor Arabella would die. The wicked witch sneered and said that the only way to save Arabella was if someone could get her body off the mountain of nickel without touching the glass bell. Once off the mountain, the spell would be gone and the princess could be saved.
Can any of you think of how poor Arabella can be made to tumble off the nickel mountain without lifting the glass or touching it in any way?
None of the princes could, the king couldn't, and poor Arabella might still be there, fainting on top of the nickel mountain, if a nice young lad who knew a little about magic hadn't come along. He sized up the situation at a glance. Then he went to the king and said, "Sire, if I get the beautiful princess down from the nickel mountain without touching the glass bell, may I have her hand in marriage?" And the good king said, "You can not only marry my daughter, but you can have half of all my vast kingdom." The nice young lad, who knew a little about magic, smiled, and then he took a comb out of his pocket and...
No, let me tell them what the nice young lad who knew a little about magic did.
Very well, Simon, you can tell our friends what the nice young lad did that saved the life of Princess Arabella.
All the nice young lad did was run his pocket comb through his hair, and then he put the comb right next to the glass bell, but without touching it. And abracadabra, the princess flew off the nickel mountain.
And if you run a rubber or plastic comb through your hair, you will find that it gathers what is called static electricity on the comb. There will be enough static electricity on the comb to act as a magnet and drag the bent paper match right off the coin.
But you'll have to try it to believe it. What's next, Mr. Magician?
Well, next I think we'll take a trip to a circus and meet a pair of Siamese twins and two pretty young girls. Before I tell you the story about these four friends of ours, turn to page 4 of your magic book, and you'll see just how to make the two paper belts that we are going to use. Besides these, all you'll need are 2 scissors. Give one pair of scissors to your father and one to your mother. Give one belt to your father and the other one to your mother. And you're all set to fool your parents.
I love circus stories. Tell me about the Siamese twins and the 2 pretty girls.
Well, the Siamese twins were named Tom and Dick, and the 2 pretty girls were named Harriet and Harriet, all of which sounds very confusing, but that wasn't my problem. My problem was that when I met them, they were very poor. The circus was poor, everyone was poor. Business had been so bad that poor Tom, Dick, Harriet, and Harriet didn't even have enough money to buy belts. Now, it was very serious for Tom and Dick not to have belts to hold up their pants, and it was even more serious for Harriet and Harriet not to have belts to hold up their skirts. All of them had to go around all day long, Tom and Dick holding up their trousers, Harriet and Harriet holding up their skirts. You can imagine what a serious problem this was. To make it even worse, I only had 2 belts with me.
What did you do, Mr. Magician? Huh? What did you do?
I used my magic powers, of course. It was very easy to make two separate belts for Harriet and Harriet. The problem was how to make the belt for Tom and Dick, the Siamese twins.
I can see that would be a problem. What'd you do, huh? What'd you do?
Naturally, I had to use my magic for the strange belt that Tom and Dick wore. I cut around the center of the one belt, and it turned into two, of course. Then I said, hocus pocus, and I cut around the center of the other belt, and what do you think happened?
I can't imagine. What happened?
Just because I said hocus pocus, Tom's and Dick's belt came out linked together. And if your mother and dad cut around the center of their two paper belts, and if you say, hocus pocus, Simon is a dopus, you will find out that you've done the magic trick too.
Simon is a dopus indeed. I'll show him. Turn to page 4 of your magic book, and you'll see that one paper belt is just that, a continuous paper circle. The other one, the magic belt, has a half twist in it. And that's Mr. Magician's secret. So there.
Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, a wicked wizard, Melvin R. Wizard was his full name, captured a young lady named Cecily. And guess what the wicked Melvin did, Simon?
He put her in a cell with iron bars on the door and on the window.
Right you are. You must be a mind reader, Simon. That's exactly what Melvin did to poor Cecily. Every day she would press her face against the iron bars and look out at the sunlight and wish that the bars would dissolve so that she would be free again. She worried and worried about her parents, for she was sure they'd be heartbroken about her disappearance. She worried almost as much about her dog Hazel, because she knew that Hazel would pine for her.
What happened, Mr. Magician? Tell me what happened. I hate sad stories.
Well, one day when she was pressing her face against the bars of her cell, she saw a pigeon flying past her window. She sighed and wished that she were as free as the pigeon. And then, guess what happened, Simon?
Did the pigeon fly through her window?
Yes, and then to Cecily's amazement, the pigeon spoke to her.
Wow! What did the pigeon say?
The pigeon said, "Don't despair, Cecily. I'm a wizard, too. But I'm a good wizard, not like that terrible Melvin."
What did the pigeon wizard do?
He told Cecily that if she held onto the iron bar very hard and wished 3 times, that she would be able to make her escape.
Well, go on. What happened?
You see this toothpick that I have stuck on the safety pin?
Yes.
Well, we'll pretend that the toothpick is Cecily, and the bar of the safety pin is one of the bars of Cecily's cell. Now you, Simon, wish hard 3 times. Say, "I wish the bar would melt."
I wish the bar would melt. I wish the bar would melt. I wish the bar would melt.
See? The toothpick goes right through the bar of the pin, and that's just what happened to Cecily. She went right through the bar of a cell window and made her way home to her mother, father, and little dog Hazel, and they lived happily ever after.
But how did the toothpick go through the bar of the pin?
If you look on page 5 of your magic book, you'll see what happens. When I press down on one end of the toothpick and then let go, it whirls around to the other side of the bar so fast that you can't see it turn. To your eye, it seems that the toothpick went through the bar of the pin.
That's amazing.
But not half as amazing as the next trick I'm going to teach our friends.